Okay, have you ever found yourself, like, still paying for that gym membership? You know, the one signed up ages ago, super motivated, but haven't actually been in months?
Oh, definitely. Or maybe defending some opinion really passionately, even when deep down you've kind of started to think differently about it.
Exactly. What is that about? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating psychological pattern that honestly explains a lot of that stuff.
That's right. We're talking about the commitment and self-consistency bias. Basically, it's this tendency we all have to think our attitudes, our beliefs, even what we did in the past, haven't changed as much as they really have.
Mhm.
It's actually one of Daniel Schachter's seven sins of memory. You know, those sort of predictable ways our memory plays tricks on us. This one subtly twists how we remember our own history.
Right. So, our mission today for this deep dives is to really get under the hood of this bias. We want to understand where it comes from psychologically, look at some key studies, some real world examples, and most importantly, give you, our listeners, some tools, some strategies to kind of notice it and maybe make choices that feel a bit more flexible, a bit more,
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. To make more informed choices.
So, just to put it simply for everyone listening, what's the absolute core of this bias? How does it affect our thinking day to day?
Well, it's easy to just call it stubbornness, but it's more subtle than that. It's genuinely believing that the you from the past and the you right now are much more similar than they actually are.
Okay.
So even if your views or habits have shifted, maybe slowly over time, your memory kind of smooths out those bumps and makes it feel like, oh, I've always felt this way, or yeah, what I did back then totally explains what I'm doing now.
Right. And what's driving that? Is it just about looking consistent to other people, or is there something internal going on?
There's definitely an internal driver. The main mechanism is cognitive dissonance. Our brains just really dislike that feeling of mismatch, you know, when our beliefs and our actions or our self-image don't line up.
That uncomfortable feeling, yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So to get rid of that discomfort, we often unconsciously sort of twist our logic a bit, or we might even rewrite our memories of the past to make them fit our current worldview. It's this really deep need for internal consistency that creates this, well, pressure.
Hmm.
And it's super important to remember, memories aren't like video recordings.
Hmm.
They get tweaked by our emotions, by what things mean to us now,
Hmm.
often to make the past seem more flattering or just more compatible with who we think we are today.
So it sounds like a kind of mental shortcut then, our brain trying to be efficient.
Exactly. It saves energy. You don't have to constantly reevaluate everything if you just assume consistency. But that efficiency sometimes means we're not seeing things accurately.
Right.
Plus, society often praises people who seem steadfast. Right? Nobody really wants to be seen as a flip-flopper. So there's that external pressure, too, pushing us to stick to our guns, even when maybe we shouldn't.
That makes sense. And this isn't a new idea, is it? I know you mentioned some historical context.
Not at all. Influential thinkers have noticed these patterns for ages. Charlie Munger, the investor, he called these tendencies chains of habit. You make an early choice, and it kind of locks you into a behavior, sometimes long after it stops being useful.
Chains of habit, I like that. It feels very descriptive of how we get stuck sometimes.
It really does. And then you've got Robert Cialdini in his classic book, Influence. He talks about our uh, nearly obsessive desire to be and to appear consistent with what we have already done.
Obsessive,
Yeah,
wow.
he points out that once we commit to something, even something small, we feel these internal and external pressures to follow through. And he specifically says this stubbornness can pop up even when being accurate should probably be more important than just seeming consistent.
And wasn't there someone else, like Emerson? Didn't he have something to say about this?
Absolutely. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay Self-Reliance, famously called A Foolish Consistency, the Hobgoblin of Little Minds.
Yes, the hobgoblin quote.
That's the one. He was really pushing for growth, for evolution, even if it meant appearing inconsistent to others. He even said to live is to be misunderstood, suggesting that changing and growing naturally leads to seeming inconsistent sometimes. It's quite a freeing perspective, actually.
It really is. Okay, so these historical insights kind of set the scene. Let's dive into some of the research now. What studies really show this bias playing out?
Okay, well, a really interesting one is the political self-consistency bias, which Greg Marcus looked at back in 1986.
Political views, right. How did they study that?
They tracked people's political beliefs over 9 years, asking them at the end to recall what their attitudes were back at the beginning in 1973.
9 years is a long time. What did they find?
It was pretty striking. On average, only about a third of people actually remembered their past political positions correctly.
Only a third. Wow.
Yeah. Much more often, people's memories shifted. They systematically remembered their past attitudes as being closer to their current ones. So they were basically rewriting their own political history in their heads.
So our brains are literally editing our past to keep our self-image consistent today. That's wild.
It totally is. Like, if someone supported marijuana legalization back in 73, but had changed their mind by 82, they were more likely to misremember their 73 self as being more anti-legalization than they actually were.
Oh,
The one exception, interestingly, was if they felt really strongly about an issue back then. Strong feelings seem to anchor the memory a bit better.
okay. That makes sense. Does it show up in other areas like personal relationships?
It does, though maybe a bit weaker. Scharf and Bartholomew looked at this in 1998, focusing on commitment bias in relationships.
How did that work?
They had people rate how stable their romantic relationship felt in two different times, about 8 months apart. Then later, they asked them to recall that first rating.
Did people remember accurately?
Most were reasonably accurate, yeah. But for those who were inaccurate, the consistency bias popped up again. So if their relationship had actually gotten better over those 8 months, they tended to remember the starting point as being better than it really was. Like, oh yeah, things have always been pretty good.
Smoothing out the past again. Okay, and then there's this change bias. That sounds different, but you said it's related.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but Conway and Ross argued in 1984 that it's another form of consistency bias. They looked at students taking a study skills course.
Okay.
So one group took the course, a control group didn't. Both groups rated their study skills before the course started. Now here's the kicker. Afterwards, the group that took the course rated their pre-course skills as being worse than they had actually rated them at the time.
Wait, so taking the course made them think they were worse off to begin with?
Exactly. The control group didn't show this bias. And get this. Even though the course group didn't actually do better on objective exams later, 6 months down the line, they thought they had improved more than they really had.
So, they adjusted their memory of the past to justify the effort they put into the course, to make it seem like the effort must have paid off.
Precisely. They're fighting for consistency between their effort and their perceived outcome. By thinking, I must have been really bad before, it makes the effort feel worthwhile and consistent with the feeling of improvement, even if objective measures didn't show it. Our brains are constantly working to build that coherent story about ourselves.
Fascinating. And it's not just about how we see ourselves, right? This drive for consistency also affects how we perceive other people.
Oh, absolutely. It shapes our social judgments and even how we talk about others. There's a great study on the attribution of attitudes by Azin, Dalto, and Blythe from 1979.
Okay, what did they look at?
They explored how we decide what someone's attitude or personality is like based on their actions, especially when there might be, situational pressures influencing those actions.
Right, like being forced to do something versus choosing to.
Exactly. So participants read about a student who wrote an essay, either pro or anti-abortion. Some were told the student chose that stance. Others were told it was assigned by a professor.
Okay.
And then, for some participants, they added an ambiguous personality description stuff like independent thinker, but also strong need for others to like and admire him. Kind of contradictory. Maybe.
Yeah, deliberately vague. So what happened?
Well, without that ambiguous description, people mostly did what you'd expect. They attributed the attitude, pro or anti-abortion, only if the student chose the stance. Makes sense. But when that ambiguous personality info was included, people started attributing the attitude consistent with the essay, even when they knew it was assigned.
Really? Even when they knew the student didn't choose it?
Yeah. It seems that ambiguous information triggered a kind of cognitive set, like a readiness to see consistency. They used the ambiguous traits to justify linking the essay stance to the student's underlying attitude, ignoring the situational constraint. We just really want things to fit neatly.
Wow, okay. We're really trying to make sense of people, even if it means bending the facts a bit. What about how we talk about others? Does consistency bias show up there too?
It does, especially with stereotypes.
Yeah.
Kurz and Lyons looked into this in 2009 with the stereotype consistency bias in communication.
Stereotype consistency.
Okay, how's that work?
They investigated whether we tend to share information that confirms stereotypes, stereotype consistent, or SC, more than information that challenges them, stereotype inconsistent, or SI.
Right.
So they had undergrad students who identified as middle class rewrite a story about a character named Steve. Steve was described as either working class or middle class. And they were told they were rewriting it for an audience, Michael, who's also either working class or middle class.
Okay, so it depends on who the story's about and who you're telling it to. Lots of social factors there. Exactly. And the results were really context dependent. When a middle-class participant was writing for another middle-class person, an in-group audience, about the working-class sieve, an out-group target, they showed a clear SC bias. They included more stereotype-confirming details.
Okay, so talking about them to us reinforces the stereotype.
Pretty much.
Sure.
But interestingly, when they were writing to an in-group audience about another in-group member, middle-class Steve, they actually showed an SI bias. They shared more stereotype-challenging information.
Huh. Why the difference?
The thinking is, maybe within your own group you're more comfortable highlighting nuances or exceptions. But the really interesting part, when they were writing for an out-group audience, a working-class Michael, neither bias really showed up significantly.
So talking to them made them more careful.
Possibly. It suggests maybe politeness goals or not wanting to cause offense kind of suppressed the usual biases. It really highlights that communication isn't just spitting out facts, it's a social act. We shape our message based on the whole situation, who we are, who they are, who we're talking about.
That's incredible. It makes you rethink every conversation, doesn't it? Okay, let's bring this back down to earth. Where do we see these chains of commitment you mentioned earlier showing up in just regular, everyday life?
Oh, they're absolutely everywhere once you start looking. Think about those daily choices. Is the unused subscriptions that yoga studio you pay $120 a month for, but only went twice, right? Or the streaming service you barely watch, you committed initially, so you just keep paying.
Guilty is charged on the streaming services, definitely.
Right. Or sticking with bad habits, like forcing yourself to drink that awful bitter coffee because you bought a giant bulk pack of it, or those fancy running shoes you bought to motivate yourself that are now just gathering dust and making you feel guilty.
The guilt-triggering decor, yes, I know that one.
And bigger things too. Continue a project at work or home long after it stopped making sense just because you started it, or keeping the same phone plan for years and years even when way better deals are out there just because switching feels like effort and breaks the consistency.
And I bet sales and marketing folks know all about this and use it against us.
Oh, absolutely. It's a cornerstone of many sales tactics. They start with small asks to reel you in. The classic free trial that just rolls over into a paid subscription before you know it.
Yeah.
That's playing on your initial commitment.
Zinky.
Totally. Cialdini talks about that toy store trick. Advertise a really popular toy right before Christmas. Let parents promise it to their kids, then run out of stock.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The parents, having made that promise, feel committed to getting a gift, so they often end up buying other, maybe more expensive toys the store does have. The initial commitment locked them in.
That's clever in a ruthless sort of way.
It is. And the foot-in-the-door technique is the same idea. Get someone to agree to something small first, like signing a petition or taking a free sample. Studies show those free samples can boost purchases by like 35%. Charities asking for a signature first, they can get 70% bigger donations later.
Wow.
Car dealers adding on features after you've already shaken hands on the main price. Same principle. It all taps into our deep desire to seem reliable and consistent with what we've already agreed to, even implicitly.
So that little yes just paves the way for the bigger yes. And this isn't just about buying stuff, right? It must affect bigger life choices, too.
Hugely. Think about long-term personal and professional life. Sticking with a career path or a job that isn't fulfilling anymore just because you declared it was your dream years ago, or because you invested so much time already.
Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy ties in there, too, I guess.
Exactly. They're related concepts.
Yeah.
A 2023 survey actually found that something like 41% of professionals felt stuck in jobs, partly because of those early commitments or statements they'd made. One person literally said, "I told everyone this was my dream job. Now I'm stuck pretending."
Oof, that sounds exhausting.
It really does. And the hidden costs add up over time, don't they? Missed opportunities to learn new skills because you're stuck in the old path. Strained relationships because you avoid revisiting old conflicts or decisions. Financial drains from subscriptions you don't use. It's like being on a ship that just refuses to adjust course, even when you see storms ahead.
Okay, this is all sounding a bit grim. So what can we actually do about it? How do we get more aware and, break free from these invisible chains when we need to? Where do we start?
Well, the first step is just spotting the patterns. Start paying attention to those little physical cues. Does your gut tighten up when a salesperson is pitching something? Do you feel defensive when someone gently questions a choice you made ages ago? Ask yourself,
No.
when do I feel this pressure to just follow through, even if it doesn't feel quite right anymore?
Noticing the feeling. Okay.
And there are quick fixes too, like literally set calendar reminders a week before subscriptions auto-renew so you have time to think. Actually calculate if that loyalty program is saving you money or just making you spend more. For old projects, maybe list the current benefits versus the benefits of switching to something new. Just making it concrete helps.
Those are super practical. I like that. But what about countering the bias itself? Like in the moment when you feel that pull?
Okay, one really simple but effective trick is the 24-hour rule. Someone asks you for a commitment, big or small, just say, let me check my schedule. Or, let me think about that, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Buys you time.
Exactly. It disrupts that automatic yes response and gives your rational brain a chance to catch up. For things you're already committed to, that gym membership, that project, ask yourself this powerful question. Knowing what I know now, would I start this today?
Ooh, that's a good one.
If the honest answer is no, or even probably not, that's a strong signal it's time to reassess, renegotiate, or maybe just quit.
Permission to quit. We need that sometimes.
We really do. Another angle is to reframe commitments, especially new ones, as experiments. Instead of, I'm going to exercise every single day, try, I'm going to test working out 3 times a week for this month and see how it goes. It builds in flexibility and takes away the guilt if you need to adjust.
Like A/B testing your life choices.
Kind of, yeah. And regular check-ins help maintain awareness. Maybe a quick monthly look at expenses, a weekly check on priorities, even just a minute or two noting your emotions daily. Self-reflection, like 5 minutes of journaling, can also uncover why you agreed to something. Was it genuine interest? Or maybe fear of saying no?
Digging into the why.
Exactly. And ultimately, it comes back to clarifying your own values and needs right now. Constantly ask, does this commitment actually serve my current goals? That helps push back against external pressures or outdated versions of yourself.
So it really boils down to remembering that changing your mind isn't some kind of moral failure. It's actually a sign of growth, right? Like a chef is always tweaking their recipes based on feedback and new ideas. Why wouldn't we do that with our own lives?
That's a perfect analogy. And, there's a slightly paradoxical side to this, too. While we definitely need to be wary of this bias leading us astray, sometimes that little bit of self-deception, believing we're more consistent than we are, might actually boost our confidence. Or believing that our past efforts did lead to improvement, like in that study skills example, could motivate us to try hard again next time.
So maybe a little bit of bias isn't always terrible.
Perhaps not always terrible in its effects, even if it's inaccurate. It's complicated. Maybe we should be a little bit thankful for our brain's drive for consistency, even as we try to manage its downsides. It likely serves an evolutionary purpose.
Okay, so we've taken quite the deep dive today into this commitment and consistency bias. It's clearly this really powerful, often invisible force nudging us to stick with things, sometimes long after the reason is gone. And it seems rooted in needing to feel good about ourselves and avoid that internal conflict.
Yeah, and understanding it is so important because it touches everything, how we remember things, how we see others, how we talk to each other, definitely how we act as consumers. But the good news is, just being aware is a huge step. And using those simple strategies, the 24-hour pause, asking, would I start this today, can really help you take back control of your choices.
It feels like the key is swapping that rigid, maybe slightly fearful consistency for a more thoughtful kind of flexibility. Your future self will probably thank you for letting yourself adapt and grow.
Well said. Consistency definitely has its place, but it's flexibility that really fuels growth in the long run.
So we hope this deep dive gave you a shortcut to understanding the fascinating psychology behind why we stick with things. Hopefully it sparked some aha moments and gave you plenty to chew on.